what that means, the different phases of the comprehensive plan throughout the presentation. But, we've been going into community over, since November, when we signed the contract with our consultants, who I'll introduce you to later. And we've been having community conversations and larger public workshops for the different phases of the plan. And so we want to get input from all stakeholders, including developers, property owners, and brokers who will help facilitate the actual work that needs to be done, part of the plan. So, but before I go into anything further, I'd just like to, there's seats up front, so please feel free to fill the space. We are a full house tonight, or today, so I do encourage staff to be generous with their seats as people filter in. So again, thank you for coming. I'll be back in a little bit. I'd like to introduce Mayor Patterson Howard.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, and welcome to our comprehensive plan real estate and developers roundtable. This is really a forum where we want to hear from you. But please know that we're excited about the fact that we're doing a comprehensive plan. This is an opportunity for Mount Vernon to really begin to set a long-term vision for the city of Mount Vernon by Mount Vernon. And I say that intentionally. It's important that we are engaging and empowering our residents as well as our other stakeholders here in the community who've done business here for a while to be a part of this process. We are being very proactive in identifying how we want to see our community grow and evolve here in the city of Mount Vernon. For a long time, that development and that growth has not necessarily been smart growth, and it's been over-influenced by people from the outside who came to present projects because we didn't have a plan. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to create a plan where we can identify how we're preserving our neighborhoods and how we want other areas to grow and develop, how we want density to increase, where we want to see really revitalization of businesses and entertainment and greater retail spaces and business partnerships. You want to mute everyone? We want to make sure that we are identifying and meeting the needs and the priorities of our community and how we are providing opportunities for our partners to invest in the growth and the future of Mount Vernon. And lastly, again, like I say, we're moving from external interests. So many people over the years, even when I was planning commissioner for a brief time, and said, New Rochelle's doing this, Manhattan's doing this. This is what they're doing in Yonkers. This is what they're doing in White Plains. Well, Mount Vernon is either a fourth, a third, or less than half population, not population, but land mass wise of those cities. And so while we're looking at what other cities and communities are doing, we want to make sure that what we're doing is best for Mount Vernon, that we are planning our space so that we can maximize the use of our space, but so that we can also ensure that we're preserving green spaces and enlivening them, that as we now, I'm glad that we're doing this now kind of post-COVID, if we want to call it post-COVID, but post-COVID, and as we've seen a lot of environmental and climate impact changes happen, because if we did this 4 or 5 years ago, it may not mean anything, right? Because our world has changed so drastically, and not just the last 55 years, but the last 5 years. And so, we're bringing everyone together with an eye on creating smart growth, making sure that what we do is sustainable, that it can deal with some of the climate change and all of the things that we're seeing right now happening, not just in our city, but around the country and in the world. And we are glad, and we know that in the rooms that we've been able to gather people in, that the expertise, the passion, the commitment, the excellence, the innovation, and the resources are in the room. We don't have to continue to invite 1 million people from far and wide. We have excellence and innovation and ideas and resources right here in our community. So please, please take advantage of this time. Actively participate. Please fill out the questionnaires. Know that we have a incredible staff team that is leading this effort. And is working with us, certified and licensed and credentialed planners, and but we still need your input. We still need your input. We're not looking to do this in a box. And so this is about Mount Vernon evolving and what we're going to look like in the near future. I'm so grateful to our planning chair. Well, he is the city councilman, but there are different committees for the city council. And so for finance and planning, Mr. Ed Poteet, our councilman, serves as the chair of the finance and planning committee on the city council. And so we're grateful for the partnership of the city council in this. You know, the city and the council are working together to develop it. The staff is executing it and working with Mud Workshop, who are partners and our contractors, as well as Hudson Valley Patterns for Progress and some of our other consultant teams that they've put together. The best in the area, right? Best in the area. And we know at the end of all of this, it's going to be our city council that has to adopt it. And so if we're going to start the work together, we'll be able to finish the work together. So we want to bring you in to this process early. We don't want to drag it out because we don't want to lose out on the incredible opportunities that are available in this season that we want to seize upon. So thank you very much. And I'm going to say this last thing, because one of the things that we really, really want to do, one of my passions and my desires and my dreams was by my 3rd year to put in the application for the DRE, the Downtown Rehabilitation and Redevelopment Initiative, where communities get $10 million. Well, the first 2 years was COVID and some other challenges, but it is really, really important that we're building and working closely with our business community and our developers to create that plan, because we can't apply for it until we have had some of the really, really good partners in place, and that we're developing a plan so that we can present that plan and that plan can be competitive. And this comprehensive plan is really one of the first starts to that process. So thank you. Please actively engage. Please share your agreement, your disagreement, because at the end of the day, as we work to build consensus, we will come up with the best plan for Mount Vernon. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the mayor mentioned, we're joined by the Finance and Planning Committee Chair for the City Council, Edward Poteet.
Good afternoon, everyone. You could be anywhere today, so I'm grateful that at 12:30 on a Friday in June that you choose to be here. I want to thank MUD for the work that they're doing, Patterns for Progress for the work that they're doing, AKRF for the work that they're doing, my planning commissioner and his staff for the work that they continue to do to get the word out, and obviously Madam Mayor for the leadership that she's showing in this process. Real estate's tough, and real estate development's especially tough. When I don't have the honor of representing the City of Mount Vernon as a council member, I'm a developer. So I get the hard path that you have. It's often lonely. You make a lot less money than people think, and you have a lot of risk. And so you hope that you have a partner in government. So I know that this process has been somewhat frustrating. But as elected officials, we had a much bigger crisis, which is that our residents believed, rightfully so, that their voices were not being heard, and that developers were coming in, doing whatever they wanted to do, and then leaving our city. So this comprehensive planning process was necessary because we had to get their voices, elevate their voices, and put their voices in the front of how we move our city forward. See, you and I know that real estate development's a lot more than making money, right? When it's done right, we can help communities. When it's done right, we can employ hundreds of individuals. When it's done right, we can help businesses, dozens of businesses right here in Mount Vernon. So I hope that you're excited. I also hope that you're excited because we're coming to the end of the phase one of the comprehensive planning process. We'll be done around August, September. Thank you. So we end the phase one of the process, but we start the work. And there's going to be 7 to 10 years of real work here in Mount Vernon. So I hope you buy in and get excited for that, get excited for that opportunity, but also the opportunity, again, to help our residents, to see their vision move forward, to grow our businesses, and to show the region that we indeed are the jewel of Westchester. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to the conversation. Thank you so much.
And what I meant to tell you that might excite you is that the IDA board, we are about to adopt our 2022 audit. So we've handed in all of our Paris reports. So our IDA should be back up and fully functional. We've adopted a new UTEP, which is a universal tax exemption policy. And we have brought on a consultant to do our cost benefit analysis so that the process can be clear, that it can be streamlined, that no one feels like they're being shaken down, and that the residents don't feel like we're being taken advantage of. And so what we're doing here in the city of Mount Vernon is we're putting real processes and procedures and plans in place so that as you move forward, there won't be so many different delays that we know really is draining some of your bottom line. The costs, the delays come at a cost, a financial cost to you. And so as we build these systems and we make the boundaries and the frameworks much clearer, then you'll know what is anticipated of you as you're looking to do business. We also are digitizing our building department, and we have OpenGov. That should make for greater ease in doing things. But we've also hired more compliance officers, and that means the many things that we've looked a different way from for many years because we didn't have staff, that we will now be enforcing to make sure that our properties are compliant and that they're coming up to code. Because when our properties are up to code, then that makes a more beautiful neighborhood, a more beautiful business district, even industrial district, and it also attracts business. It pushes away any type of crime and grime, and it allows all of us to make more money for the businesses. And if the businesses are making money, guess who's also making money? The city. And if the city's making money, guess who's saving money? Our residents and taxpayers. So this is the full circle of life, and I'm just excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Potteet. Again, like you can hear in our voices, we are really excited about this process. And it's the first time we're doing a comprehensive plan for the city. We're going to succeed doing a comprehensive plan for the city since 1968. That's 55 years. And what we've been telling communities is that it sounds like a really long time, and it is. But the New York metropolitan area is not always the best in doing comprehensive plans. New York City doesn't have a comprehensive plan, as neither do many of the surrounding towns and villages in Westchester County and in neighboring counties. So we're really excited to be here. We kicked off the process at the end of last year in November when we went into contract with Mud Workshop and their partners, Hudson Valley Plan for Progress and AKRF. We went through a RFP process over the summer and interviewed 4 qualified candidates. And at the end, we met with the city council with 2 candidates and decided on this team. We're doing this process in a phased approach. The reason that we're doing it is for multiple reasons, is because if you could silence your cell phones, we really appreciate it, especially for those on Zoom. Is that we decided that we needed to focus on an area that we've identified as downtown. If you look at the map over near the display, there's a dotted line area that identifies what we've designated as downtown, and from our community conversations, what consists of downtown. So it's a 50-ish block area that is essentially Mount Vernon East to Mount Vernon Hospital, and then Hartley Park going down to 4th, and just blocks peppered out through the middle, with Gramerton and South 4th Avenue being that spine. And the reason we chose that is multifold. It is because downtown, you hear about a lot in Mount Vernon, north side, south side, the rail cut dividing us, and even amongst north side, south side divisions there. But downtown is an area that everyone cares about in Mount Vernon. You know, unfortunately, there's not as much retail foot traffic as we would like, as there were in past years, especially pre-pandemic. But, you know, we're seeing encouraging signs. And when we have these conversations, and I'll go into those conversations in a minute, in the communities, they're saying, well, what are we doing about downtown? Why do I have to drive here? Why do I have to drive there to get these kind of services? And so it highlighted for us that we need to address this. The other aspect of it is, and let's be open and honest here, is there's a lot of pressure on downtown. There's a lot of interest from the development side. Some of you sitting here have already purchased properties, or have been longtime property owners who have been looking to develop. And as Madam Mayor said earlier, that, you know, we have done it a certain way before in the past. You know, Mount Vernon has not been proactive in saying what it wants in terms of development. It's been reactive, saying, well, someone wants to develop in Mount Vernon. Sounds great. What can we get out of it? What can we offer? What can be offered to us? As opposed to, like, what does Mount Vernon offer? What does Mount Vernon offer to our development partners, to our property owners? How do we get the word out? Working with our brokers, you know, showing that Mount Vernon is a place of happy homes. That's what it was developed as. It was one of New York's first suburbs. And that's part of it. And that's kind of where we are right now, is we need to zero in and hone in on what Mount Vernon's identity is. You know, we're the city of Mount Vernon, but we're a suburb of New York. But you walk around Mount Vernon, 4.4 square miles, it seems like a village. And so in that intersection, in that triangle, we fall somewhere within there. And where? Mount Vernon, the community of Mount Vernon, the residents need to guide that and need to determine that. And so we've had 9 community conversations so far in various neighborhoods and with residents. You know, we talked about their vision, their challenges, you know, and what opportunities there are, because in a lot of communities, there's concern, there's fear. You know, how are we going to grow? You know, plans that were done, whether small scale or attempts at comprehensive plan done pre-pandemic, the world is different now. And so addressing those concerns, but also those opportunities, because the world has changed, there's a new way of looking at things, a new lens, a new frame of reference. And so how do we engage that? How do we approach that? And so we got a lot of feedback. And so, you know, we had a business-focused roundtable back in April, you know, just to speak with the retail businesses and commercial property owners and such. And so we heard a lot about what they want to see in terms of the retail corridors here, particularly along Gramerton and South 4th, and not only Gramerton and South 4th, but, you know, along Columbus, you know, up in Fleetwood, Sanford Boulevard, just throughout. And we took all this information and we had our first large public workshop at the Boys and Girls Club at the end of April. And it was a really good conversation. If you haven't watched the video yet, it was a good conversation. We got News 12 coverage. It was excellent. You know, we had like between 90 and 100 people in total who were physically there. And just, you know, when people came up to the poster boards, when people came up to the separate topical tables, there was a great energy there. But at the same time, that great energy, that great vision needs to be executed. A lot of you in this room can help us execute that. In the past, as I said, a lot of people have come to Mount Vernon, and partially because it's opportunistic. Let's be real here. But they come asking, what do you want to see here? And too many times and that's not helpful. If, having, folks who want to help Mount Vernon grow come into the community and the community doesn't have an answer for them. And so what happens at the end of the day is either nothing happens or something folks don't want happen. And so you'll hear some of that today of what we've heard, from our consultants and from our team members. We have an advisory committee that we've been working with. We have 45 members, so it's a large, widely represented group of community stakeholders that's helping, advising and guiding this process. And what we really want to talk about here is Mount Vernon as a whole. We do want to hear what your thoughts on the city as a whole and the opportunity, but right now we really want to focus in and hone in on downtown. So where are we in phase one? We're towards the end. And so some of you may be asking, like, well, why are we at the end of the first phase of the process? As Councilmember Poteet mentioned, is that there was a community clamoring for a comprehensive planning process. And a part of that, I know, was a very controversial moratorium on new development and rezonings, things like that. It doesn't mean you can't build. You can build as of right here, but it was necessary that, we focus on the community, on residents, because this was a community-led effort. And so if we didn't go to them first and try to get a sense of like, what do you really want? You asked for this. What do you really want? We can't go to the folks who own the properties, that are developable. We can't go to the folks who want to develop, who are builders. We can't go to the banks. We can't go to the syndicators. We can't go to any of those folks without this input. And so we're coming towards the end, as was mentioned. In August, September, we should have a plan for you for the first phase. And then City Council can, start working and considering zoning amendments. We'll still be doing for the downtown area. For the rest of the communities, at that point, we're going to be starting at the end of summer. We're going to start doing the staging for that, to have a similar process, but more neighborhood focused. So we'll be going into the individual neighborhoods, talk about contextual zoning and contextual development, about preservation. Because sure, there's opportunities, but what's Mount Vernon's identity? Again, there may be some development opportunities, but they may be crucial to the character of Mount Vernon. So given the opportunity for all of you coming into this process, knowing what matters to Mount Vernon, what matters to the community, will better focus you on where the opportunity does exist. And that's what we're hoping to do today. And so we're going to be having a targeted discussion after presentation by Mud Workshop, Parent for Progress, and AKRF. And we're going to hear your feedback. We're going to ask a series of targeted questions, and we want to hear. We want to include it in the process and see how that matches and works with what we've heard in the community thus far and with the retail folks. Because it's important that we collaborate at the end of the day. I don't like the word compromise, because it focuses on giving up something. And the idea is not to give up something. It's to take the best ideas from everyone and come up with a plan, with a vision, with a 10-year future that's replicable 10 years from now. And so before I turn it over to Shachi and Pandey from Mud Workshop and Adam Bosch, I just wanted to acknowledge some of the staff here, and folks we'll be working with. In front row, we have Fire Commissioner Deborah Norman here. From in the back, we have Buildings Commissioner Patrick Holder. Amongst planning staff, I just want to identify Deputy Commissioner Marla Molina. Our Director of Economic Development, Andrea Haynes. Working on the computer back here is our Associate Commissioner, Catherine Meja, who's really handling the day-to-day for this process. So give her another round of applause for this. Sorry, Madam Mayor pointing. We have our Senior Planner, Will Highland, in the back. Out in front, you had Tamika Graham-Otara, our Executive Secretary, sign you in. Jahi, one of our communications associates, helping out here. And unless I missed someone, Kush from City Clerk's office. I don't see him here now, but he was here earlier. Did I miss anyone from staff? Please raise your hand. Oh, Raj. Yes, Raj is standing right in front of me. Who's our chief accountant in the planning department. And finally, we're joined by our ZBA chair, Mike Justino, who's also a community resident. But at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Shachi and Adam to present to you some of our findings.
Thank you, James, and a very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for being here. As Councilman Poteet said, you could have been anywhere on a Friday afternoon, but you chose to be here. So we're really, really excited to have you. Peter and Adam, please come on over. So I am Shachi Pandey. I am the principal of Metropolitan Urban Design Workshop, or MUD Workshop. We are leading the comprehensive planning process, and I'm being supported by AKRF, who are working with us on the environmental review portion of the comprehensive plan, and Pattern for Progress, who are helping us with the housing, socioeconomic features, and economic development piece of the comp plan. Peter Farrow and Adam Bosch. It's been a really exciting 5-6 months, and we are super energized to be working on the comprehensive plan. I believe I'm speaking for the entire team, but I don't want to spend too much time into talking about all of the engagement work that's already been underway and is going to continue to be underway for the rest of the year. I want to give you snippets of what we've heard and why people love to be, what is it that people love about Mount Vernon, and to give you a flavor. And then we want to kick off quickly into a discussion and hear from you as to what you think needs to happen in Mount Vernon to get you to be really interested in the revitalization of the downtown. So as Commissioner Rao said, downtown is the first phase of the project. And it's very clear because I'm presenting to you survey findings that were that had approximately 400 respondents online. And most of the people chose to live in downtown because of the diversity of its residents and the transportation. People still think that it is a very, very well-connected area. And you'll see that here as well, that those are the greatest strengths of Mount Vernon. The diversity of residents, the housing stock to a certain degree, but now I think they are looking for housing stock that is a little bit more diverse and does address the diversity of the residents. That's one of the priorities that they have. But access to transportation and the diversity are the two top things that people choose Mount Vernon for. And the area that they think Mount Vernon should really be focusing on is quality of life. Now, we went a little bit deeper at the public workshop to understand what that quality of life really means. And surprisingly, at the other on the other slide, a number of people chose, first of all, a number of people chose that revitalizing the downtown would be a big part of improvements. For the quality of, would be a big part of what Mount Vernon can do now to improve the quality of life. And that's right there, right? Approximately 60% of the residents thought that that should be a priority. Now that means not just what is happening in downtown in terms of what businesses there are, what downtown offers, but also in terms of the way it looks. What type of parks, public amenities are there in downtown? So we have a whole list of desires that the community would like to see materialize in their downtown, and how they visualize it. And it's a really exciting vision. We're talking about walkable streets, connected places, a place mixed use, formalized mixed use, where there is retail on the ground floor, maybe housing on the upper floors, but art and culture figuring quite prominently in the desires of people. They would like to see things like farmers markets, and have it be a really bustling place that everybody who lives in Mount Vernon can access. For it to not just be, for Mount Vernon to not just be a place where people are coming back to live, but is also a revitalized village, for it to be a place that the residents of Mount Vernon can visit. Maybe just a destination for the residents at least. They would love a central place that offers all the amenities, and that is also just a place to hang out at. So some of the things that figure quite prominently are more restaurants, more retail shops, street fairs, music concerts, definitely looking at the fabric of Mount Vernon and the downtown and restoring, as well as preserving the architectural history. So we're super excited as architects, planners, and urban designers to be giving this shape. And we understand that here is a set of desires that people have and a vision that we have to get to, but to get to that place, you're here today so that we can talk to you about what it would take for all of us to get there together. So we have a list of questions. And by the way, there is a website called envisionmtvernon.com. envisionmtvernon.com has a much more detailed survey, and there are also some recordings and findings from the workshops, as well as the stakeholder meetings that we've been hosting. You can go there and find out details of what people have been talking about and where we are hoping to head, what direction Mount Vernon is headed in. And that'll give you a much more detailed overview. But today, we want to discuss with you a few things. I know a number of you talked about, a number of you have filled out the questionnaire. Thank you for those, to those who have done it. Those who haven't done it, please do, because it will help us understand your needs a little bit better. We want to hear from, and if there are properties that you are interested in or that you own, we encourage you to please mark it on the map, because it will help us understand where the priority is as well. So we want to hear from you as to what needs to happen for you to invest your energy, time, and money in Mount Vernon, and what can the city do to facilitate that. Additionally, if there are, that could be a discussion of what are the risks that you think you're facing. Could be regarding clarity of direction. Any other risks could be, we heard a couple days ago about some building permits. So, and thank you. And given the current development climate, how do you see the Mount Vernon's real estate market? So unless my colleagues want to add a little bit more to this, I think we should really open it up for discussion. And I invite any one of you to sort of jump in, and we'll bring the mic over to you for any comments.
I don't think I want to add anything other than saying I as a practical matter, we know we're not unicorn hunting here. We know we don't just go out and do a comprehensive plan and there's some wand we wave and development happens magically. We know that through a comprehensive plan, it's also a time to be sort of self-critical, self-reflective, figure out how to improve the models of governance, the incentives, the zoning, the programs that set the conditions for that development to happen, right? So as you're all giving feedback as property owners and developers, really what I'd like you to do, and I think what the team would like you to do, is specify the exact things that we can recommend to Mount Vernon and that Mount Vernon can do to maximally set those conditions that help you develop the things that Mount Vernon folks want to see, okay? So that's really the feedback that we want to get out of this. And some of that is mitigating risks. Some of that is creating opportunities. Some of that is setting in place incentives and other things that are helpful. That's the sort of granular, detailed feedback we want from this group, okay? Great.
With the survey, before, just with the 400 people, how was it conducted? Was it email? Was it on the street? How was it conducted with the 400 people, I guess?
There was it was a digital survey. There were several ways to distribute it. It was on the website. It was posted there. It was sent out to via email, via text. We also have an advisory committee who have been, helping us spread the word. They too, I think some of the advisory committee members also forwarded to their groups. So it was pretty comprehensive.
Okay. I guess the question is how to get people to go to a place that similar to what you're already sort of envisioning, a cultural place, a place for people to hang out. I forget, there was one screen that had like everything listed there. How would you get people to go there? Because currently there is a space like that. And I'm not sure if people know about it because it's right out Mount Vernon East and it's the brewery within Mount Vernon. Now, I don't know if many people know that there's a brewery exists in Mount Vernon that has event space upstairs, brewery downstairs, and a community space in which it was created for, right next to Mount Vernon East train station, 100 steps from it. So that's my question of how to get people from Mount Vernon to go to this type of place that somewhat exists already.
So I'm going to speak to the urban design built environment aspects. I think that one of the things really that we noticed in the downtown when we did our site walkthroughs at different times of the day and different days of the week is that we realized that there wasn't necessarily a threshold or a minimum threshold and the right critical mass. That's the word I was looking for. The critical mass of events and things and offerings that was available consistently for people. And by consistently, I mean, that's one business that I feel maybe is known to some people and not everybody knows about it. But if there was a critical mass and if there were a number of other things that were happening there, including, an outdoor activity, maybe something like a farmer's market or an improved streetscape there, maybe there needed to be a mix of both retail and residential so that people living in the place can see what's happening in the, around them. So those are some of the things that, I think that we think would need to happen in order to draw out some of the hidden gems that Mount Vernon also has. And the other thing is the interconnectivity of each one of them. We also understand that the park for the entire city, the street, the walkability, the park system, and also the system of open spaces, plazas, streetscapes, that also needs to connect and lead people to the places where they want to be, and so that they can have the right type of frontage that they. So that's just speaking from a design standpoint. I'm wondering if from a retail economic development standpoint, you guys have any comments?
I have no comments other than to say, we're looking for feedback from you. We can answer your questions like that separately, but really we need feedback that talks to us about the sort of things you want to see in place to encourage development so that there is that critical mass, right? Yep.
Yeah, so if I can just chime in on another aspect of it, I'll move into camera range so those on Zoom can see me. To answer, and we're going to ask everyone to just state their name. What was your name, sir? Okay, Ed Andrade. In terms of, how do we get the word out? How do we market things better? Part of that is government. Like, let's be honest here. Part of this process is to bring exposure and to bring ideas and opportunities to create that. But it's simple to say just, clearing red tape. Probably you mentioned Dwayne has done a fantastic job. Just reimagining that space. But, in conversations we had, he's expressed frustrations because, things don't happen as quickly. And if he's focused on the minutia, if he's focused on the delays, if he's focused on the paperwork, and we're not saying like, just kind of like streamline everything so people just walk through the door and do whatever they want, but it's just making life easier. So, there's a plan, there's more pop, there's more, being able to implement the things that he wants to and other property owners want to, because there's a hesitancy. And we've recognized that as like, I would, but, and a lot of it is part of the delays that we cause. So like the improvements that we try to do, we're actually, towards the end of I don't say towards the end, but last year we've been doing a partnership with LISC, Local Initiative Support Corporation, to update our plan for South 4th Avenue, working with Street Sense as our partner, and now WCC is a partner to do facade improvements and other capital improvements to make South 4th more attractive. And it's these little things, these forward-thinking initiatives, and part of that is improving our government process, improving our permitting process. Before this happened, we did get some calls just saying, hey, can we talk about permitting a little bit? It's like, we're not going to dive into that, but we want to hear that, because that can be part of the recommendations. It won't be like a focal point, as Shachi mentioned. It's more about design, opportunity in different programs, but permitting and getting it done is part of the process. So we do want to hear about that, and we do recognize. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so my name is Donna Marable, and some of the things that what are some of the top risks from preventing people from investing in Mount Vernon? Safety, number one, to improve the quality of life on both sides of the town. South side, we know is more treacherous than the north side, but people, like, we own property on the south side of town on 3rd Street corridor. And that corridor has been challenging forever, right? But there's a structure right across the street. There's an old church. It still has scaffolding that's been there forever, but there's no real construction or anything going on, people living in the building. So we need to be watchful in terms of what it is that we see, and to kind of move some of those quality of life issues into a more positive perspective, in order for people to say, okay, I may want to build here. I want to do something else here. I might want to sell my property to a developer that may want to build here. Making sure that some of those other quality of life issues, like signage on properties, making sure when you go down 4th Avenue, if you have that structure used to be McDonald's, used to be the farmer's market, but it's just sitting there. You've got debris that's just hanging out there on the street. Nobody is monitoring it or making sure that they clean that stuff up, whether they're fines or whatever that is, to make it more attractive. And even when you put signage up, some people are just throwing signs up, like, make it more attractive, make it more uniform, make it something that's appealing to people. I was born and raised here. I've been in this city all my life. And I look at, some other cities that surround us, and I know we compare ourselves to certain districts and certain cities, but what I will say is that they've been intentional in terms of how businesses come in, what businesses come in, and how they're presented when they come in.
Really great point.
Thank you. And just with, you mentioned third, we actually, if you notice the boundaries of downtown, initially, we didn't have a whole lot of Third Street except around Third, Fourth, and Fifth Avenues. And then just because of what we heard, and we heard opportunities, like I own a property. I own, like, what are you doing for Third? We've expanded the boundaries to include more of Third to improve that profile. While it may not be as robust of development, say centered around here or Mount Vernon East, it is a corridor that complements Fourth Avenue and brings out a lot of folks.
Good afternoon. My name is Pete Luongo. First, I want to say thank you to the administration, to the mayor for spearheading this effort to bring organization and bring us forward. I did want to speak about the 3rd Street, 4th Avenue corridor. And I just wanted to mention or to register, to bring out the fact that that corridor had some terrific foundations of business, of industry. There was a woodworking shop, a uniform place, an electrical supply house. And when you consider that Mount Vernon is on the list, if not at the top of the list, of the most densely populated cities in the United States, and the resources that Mount Vernon has are so stretched, those business corridors, to look at ways of creating new light industrial and business opportunities that enhance and add to the bottom line of the city's tax base, as opposed to drain it. And I think I just wanted to register my thoughts that business community, that section, can be vitalized as a business community, particularly in distribution, in light industry, in all types of ways that are friendly now, from a building standpoint, from an environmental standpoint, from an engineering standpoint, to all different aspects of community development.
And focusing mostly on that corridor that you're talking about, the south, the East Third, South Fourth, that corridor?
East Third, South Fourth.
Right, okay,
Yeah, so thank you.
that's great.
No, thank you for that. I said it was one reason why we expanded. And I just want to be clear, and just so folks here know, like, where we're heading. We haven't, finished our density distribution or massings or anything like that as of yet. But one thing we heard is that there is great interest in doing what's possible to preserve the character of South Fourth and Gramerton. It's generally a lower rise. We're not saying we're going to keep everything as is, but the interest is, like, how do we preserve the village character that other villages around Westchester have, and just have that kind of just nice main street, but allow development around it that would support that. So just in that thinking, I think. Yeah.
Hi, is this on? Okay, my name is Patricia Griffin. Just feeding off of what Donna Marable said and what you guys are saying, but you want our input, but I need to know what strategies or the initiative does the plan propose to promote economic growth and to attract new businesses to the area? What exactly are you guys going to do?
We don't have them yet. I mean, that's part of the process we're going through, and part of the reason we're meeting with all of you is to understand some of the plans and incentives and strategies that developers take advantage of in other places that would help promote and encourage the kind of development that Mount Vernon wants to see in Mount Vernon, right? So we're not here to present, a defined set of strategies and a defined set of incentives and a defined set of programs. We're still formulating them. That's the whole reason we're here, to get feedback on the ones that have worked well elsewhere that could be adopted at the appropriate scale for Mount Vernon, right? Yep.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Tricia Fraser. And I think it's important that the plan includes the fact that Mount Vernon is in an opportunity zone. This is a way to incentivize the property owners I think it's from First Avenue to Fourth Ave, from First Street to Third Street. Those that don't know about the opportunity zone should definitely Google it, but these are amazing ways to incentivize the property owners. Additionally, I thought it would be a great idea too, to use art as a catalyst to develop like Fourth Avenue. Funding is already out there. There are foundations that already do this, as long as it's centered around art. So you figure there could be cafes on the bottom, studios on the top. Just an idea to put that bug in your ear.
Great point. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for that, particularly with the art. We're actually in that process right now. We put in a request. There are two murals that Director Haynes has asked to be improved along South Fourth Corridor. So our Department of Public Works is looking at that and trying to with ideas. But we've looked at everything from, you know, the type of infrastructure that we're utilizing, you know, from lighting, decorative lighting, things like that, to we've trying to take ideas from other places with, like, you know, doing a program that brings youth involved and doing like painted crosswalks, you know, that brings that pop. It's not only is it art, it gets folks to slow down really for traffic safety, because they're like, what's this? And it is an actual strategy and interest. So thank you for that.
Okay. Good evening. Well, it's not evening, but anyway. My name is Cynthia Crenshaw, and my question is, I heard last night that you was planning on putting maybe a hotel in Mount Vernon someplace. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I heard. Somewhere around Sanford Boulevard. But that property on 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue, they tried to put a hotel there, and the community fought against it because it's right across the street from Parkwood School. My next question is, what's happening with the young adults, the children? How about a state-of-the-art Y with the swimming pool, a rec room, a music room, someplace that can be shared with the young adults and the senior citizens? The next question is about the pipe. Oh no, that's okay. I'm gonna stop here. That's for
Madam Mayor.
So, Ms. Crenshaw, the hotel that we're discussing is not the old hotel location or the motel location that you're discussing. We're talking about a hotel location on the down on Sanford Boulevard in the business district, closer to Memorial Field, Bed Bath and Beyond. That's where we're looking at placing a hotel, and it would not be a quick stop hotel. It would be a very lucrative hotel with meeting space and banquet space and things of that nature from a top tier hotelier. Secondly, one of the things I also discussed last night as you were referencing my presentation is we are building a youth activity center onto the Dole Center. We are expanding the Dole Center, and we are building up. We've already have some of the plans and the designs for it, and we have private investors who will be working with the City of Mount Vernon to bring that to fruition. So it will have a new indoor basketball, soccer, volleyball court. It will have a new boxing room. We will upgrade the theater that's in there, and bring our public access channel back out into the community. That's kind of been in the high school for many years, and upgrade the senior facilities that are there, and the classrooms and the common spaces at the same time. And we will be making more announcements in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We've been working with our state legislators to get funding to bring the Armory back online. And not just bring it back online. Mount Vernon, we got used to just having things to have it. They were in terrible condition. Environmentally, they were hazardous. We went there because we had nowhere else to go. And we're not looking to bring these facilities back online at the bottom of their functionality, but in places where people really want to go and visit and know that we've invested in them. I had a meeting this morning with the president of Westchester Community College, and we're working with Westchester Community College and our Youth Bureau and other organizations to reinvigorate their Westchester County College, Community College Extension Center with job training, certification programs, but also with the college credit program programs. So we are doing these partnerships. And then this is the one thing I have to say, because what's interesting is oftentimes property owners will say, well, what are we going to do to make it look better? My question is, what I said to you earlier is we're going to enforce the codes on your buildings too. right? Everyone wants the place next door to look good for them before they invest, but we're going to enforce the codes so that the sign codes are followed, so that the facades are taken care of, so that the inside of your properties are enhanced and look good. People want people to come and visit stores that look like crap. And that is because the property owners have kept them that way. And that's because the city for decades has allowed it. But those days are over. And we need partners. We need partners. And I see some shaking heads like, oh, I can't believe she said that. I absolutely did say it. I absolutely did say it. Everything is not the city's responsibility. The city can't take all of the risks, and the property owners take none. We need property owners who will also have a standard about what type of businesses you bring into your property. We also need the city council to work with us to set some moratoriums on certain types of businesses. We don't need every business. We need the right businesses. If we cannot spend our money in our community, we will spend our money like we've done other places, because we need places where people can go buy clothes and business suits, where they can buy furniture. We don't have these things. We need a hotel so the money does not continue to leave our community. Mount Vernon is not poor. We just have a poor retail industry where our monies leave the city more than they stay in the city. And so we're not benefiting from the tax revenue that will be drawn from that. But those things will come. And if we want residents to shop in Mount Vernon, we have to present them with stores and places that are welcoming and make them feel respected enough to spend their money in those places. And so it is incumbent upon the city to enforce the codes, and it is incumbent upon our business owners, our retail and our real estate and property owners to take care of their properties, and then also not just look for anyone to rent, but work with us to identify the businesses that people will absolutely support. And when people are supporting those businesses, you can rent them for higher levels, everyone's making money, and the city is progressing. And so those are some of the things, and it might hurt in the beginning, but anytime you're making progress, anytime you're exercising new muscles, we're not looking to come with a hammer and hurt anyone, but we're looking for partners to help us do what we need to do here in Mount Vernon. So we'll take risk, but we also need property owners to take a risk by investing and bringing some of their properties up to code, not just because we're asking you, but because you believe in your property and you want to see Mount Vernon be better as well.
So we have some.
Most likely it will not include a pool, because the risk and the cost of pools is very high. And we have a pool at Mount Vernon High School that is available for public use. And when we had the pool at the Y, Ms. Crenshaw, I ran it for 4 years. As much as people cry about a pool, we cry about what we lost, but we didn't support it when it was there.
So we have a few questions on Zoom. We're going to, the gentleman in the back and the gentleman in the middle in the blue suit, going to ask their questions, then we'll turn to the Zoom questions, and then we'll get back to the open forum here.
Thank you. My name is Greg Smith. I'm going to stay with downtown. I had some ideas about what the mayor was talking about. But many years ago, there was a whole concept of trying to develop First Street, especially on the overpass of the metro, and bringing in the kind of businesses that supported major businesses in New York City. Cost of real estate was so high, those support services could be on the First Street corridor, get on the Metro North, and go into the city. But one of the reasons why they built Westchester Plaza, because they want to attract those persons who are working in the city, could get off here, go live there, and so forth. So that whole First Street corridor is a key to developing downtown, but it also increases the tax base. I don't know whether there's been any more discussion about over the overpass, over the metro, and that whole First Street corridor. The other thing, one last thing. Many years ago, I grew up in Harlem. They took Adam Clayton Powell Boulevard, which was 7th Avenue then, you might remember, and they came and changed not just the facades, but all the signage. Am I right? It was all consistent. It changed the look of all of those stores. When I look at 4th Street, when I look at 3rd Street, if there was some kind of grant that could change the outer workings of facades, the signage on those buildings, you probably could attract more customers.
So just, you had talked about the First Street corridor. The hope and prayer is that there are developers in the room today that understand that Mount Vernon is open for business, because we actually look forward to that, right? But like Commissioner Rouse said, we need developers to want to take the risk of making that happen, so that the hope and prayer is that that actually happens and starts in this room today.
Yeah, so just on that, I'm going to talk about a little, elephant in the room just related to first, and that's the rail cut itself. So we're considering that as well. How does the rail cut come into play here, or what opportunities there are? And really, we hear a lot that we need more open space. What are we going to do about the rail cut? It's a lot of y'all. It needs to be a public-private partnership. We have dilapidated garages. We have underutilized parking lots of large size. And how do we create a program? That's a long-term vision. But First Street is definitely key to that, because it's the back. It's the back of Mount Vernon East, behind the parking lots. But it's still, those are property owners. Dealing with MTA is an elephant in the room. It's going to take a while. But developing those properties become incentives for the county, for MTA to say, maybe what is happening in Mount Vernon is something we should be involved with. It's something we can catapult to. So I'm gonna one more question here, and then we're gonna address the Zoom questions, and then we'll come back.
Part of the strategy will be putting some comprehensive plan on the funds that are available to get those sort of things going, creating momentum for the right on.
Okay. I'm Carl Finger. I'm an attorney. I have a lot of clients that have buildings in Mount Vernon. And just to your first question on the board, I think one of the things that I think about is not only cutting the red tape to get the projects in, not only making it attractive to get the projects in, but I imagine you want developers also who want to build and stay and be members of the community. And getting to something the mayor said, which is in terms of enforcement, code enforcement. Certainly, we all think that's important, not only for how things look, but for safety. But one of the things that is important, I think overall the city does a good job of, that you could encourage, is not just being punitive to enforce codes, but most of the time when I get involved, it's usually not going so well. But quite often, I think the building department does try to work with property owners. And I think, but as you get into more code enforcement, sometimes people can feel it's a little punitive. But I think that, being careful about that, we want to enforce the code. We're still your partner. And we do that as an encouragement for people coming in. Not only do we want you to be here, but we have a community in a city hall that works with you when you are here. And I think some of the things that you're doing, the youth center, et cetera, are good. But I will say that I think the city could do a little better job in some ways, maintaining when we have developers and property owners that go to the courthouse and the air conditioning hasn't worked in a few years. It's not a good picture for the city. And I hate to say that out loud, but I think that there are little things here and there that people see, and those are things that are sometimes not hard to improve on. But anyway, I think once you're here where you're good partners and show examples of that would be very helpful.
Thanks. And now we'll go over to the questions on Zoom. Yeah, a little down. Okay. Yeah, so the question we have from Michael is, who can we contact with development ideas to possibly get funding to assist with a project if sensible for the city of Mount Vernon? Well, for development ideas, you can contact Department of Planning and Community Development. You know, you could participate in this process. But in terms of funding, right now, Madam Mayor is just shaking her head no. So if that's that's a direct answer, if anything. Yeah, right now. So just look, as was mentioned earlier, we're getting close with the IDA. We're getting very close. We're finishing up our 2022 audits. You know, we're working to get back our, our bond capacity. And so once those items are resolved, then we can start talking about how we can be creative to get some of these projects done. And Josh Koppel, I find it very hard to attract quality employees due to a minimum of 30 men standing on the street waiting to be picked up to work at 8 a.m. on the corner of Sydney and Gramerton. There are always men congregating there, drinking alcohol in the street, doing various activities. The streets need to be cleaned up. Have you thought about building structures like New Rochelle has for a waiting area for the day laborers? I don't know if anyone can address that or. Yeah. So considerations, I don't know if Adam, you've experienced that in other towns or had those conversations.
So it's something you got to think about how to handle, but it's not something we contemplate.
Do we have any more? Okay. So let's see. Mrs. Harris, where is the city on the cannabis business that has unfortunately come into the city? Location of such in light of side effects of the process for residents and access of the product for our children. Where's the other one? Oh, it'll be followed up upon another time. So, okay, last question. Sorry, Mr. Koppel. So, okay.
So my name is Mark Alexander. I am a developer. I have two quick questions for the crowd. How many folks in this room, by a show of your hand, actually own commercial real estate in the city of Mount Vernon and think that you have significant upside potential? Okay, so we've heard, I think, from one of you guys so far. How many people in this room have invested at least $1 million in the city of Mount Vernon in the last year or two? Again, we haven't heard from any of you folks. I strongly encourage MUD to follow up directly with the folks who just raised their hand. I'm a developer of 42 Broad up in Fleetwood Avenue and Broad Street. We're about to open that building in 2 weeks. We also own some other property near the Mount Vernon East train station that we've been trying for over 5 years to get the city to allow us to develop. We've invested approximately $10 million of our own private equity in the city of Mount Vernon in the last 6-7 years. And we've attracted an additional roughly $50 million of institutional equity in the 42 Broad project. That's probably the largest private investment in the city of Mount Vernon in decades. So I think, you know, folks that are actually putting money into the city or have the desire to put money into this city are folks that you folks need to talk to and engage with. In terms of 3 quick answers to those questions, have predictable zoning that's as of right, stay out of my way. In other words, let me do what I do best. You have a whole set of divisions of government that can help guide us through the process. You have a building department capably led by Commissioner Holder. You've got a DPW that's well led by Damani Bush. You have the folks, and you have a good planner right here next to me who's got a long history in the Bronx of doing excellent work in the Bronx. You have the folks that you need in the right places. You have a good mayor that cares about this city passionately. Just let us do what we know how to do. We will bring the money and we will invest, but you have to have zoning that's as of right. Second, the biggest risks preventing us from doing more investing is things like bad infrastructure, right? I just put up over $100 million building at the corner of Fleetwood and Broad, and every single person that crosses Fleetwood and Broad intersection coming to and from the train takes their life in their hand every day. The lights are a mess. There's no discernible crosswalk. There's no pedestrian signage. We paid Langen Engineering thousands of dollars to put together a plan for those intersections. The city's trying to implement it, but there are some challenges in Westchester County because of vestiges of whatever that prevent the city from competitively bidding. So I strongly urge the city to continue its efforts to improve basic infrastructure. The sewer system is another place where the mayor's attracted tens of millions, if not $100 million. I don't know what the latest number is, Mayor. $163 million. I can't build a 249 unit. And for anybody in this room that doubts that that building is the best building in Westchester County, call my son, Nicholas, not me. Call my son, Nicholas, and schedule a tour. It's the best building in Westchester County, the most energy efficient building in the world of its type. Not the most energy efficient building in Westchester County, not the most energy efficient building in New York State, not the most energy efficient building in the United States. It's the most energy efficient market rate high rise in the world here in Mount Vernon. Last question. Given the current development climate, how do you see, we need this plan done. The climate is horrible right now. And I don't mean that as a criticism against the mayor or against Ed or anybody else in this room. The current environment is untenable. And that's why you see hardly any development. And it's just as bad in New York City. New York City gave up their 421A program, 600 housing starts in the city of New York since January. It's an absolute catastrophe. So you have to give us the tools to place our equity and take our risk. I've taken an enormous risk. I'm taking it on the chin right now. A building that should have taken 2 years to build, and I'm 5 years in. It's been an unmitigated disaster from a construction standpoint. I know every resident of Fleetwood will agree with me on that. But I'm still there, and we're going to finish in the next week or two, and we're going to have one of the most successful buildings in this county. And we thank the mayor, and we thank Patrick Holder and everybody else in this administration for helping us get across the finish line. But those are the things that I think you've got to get to get this plan to work.
This is what I want. Good. Mark, jump to the floor. You said that the conditions right now are untenable. That could mean interest rates. That could mean a lot of things.
Okay.
What pieces of that untenable environment are in Mount Vernon's control to change something?
Right.
Think about?
So zoning, right? The need for appropriate infrastructure. So for instance, we own a site a block away from the Mount Vernon East train station on the north side of the tracks. No. We own a second property, about an acre of land on a block away from the Mount Vernon East train station. We think that there may be a real challenge with the sewers in that area. So you could have the zoning in place, We could have the economics turned back. You know, the interest rate environment right now is out of our control, but everything could, all the stars could align. But if I don't have a sewer that I can connect to, I can't build a 250, 300 unit building. And that's exactly where we should be building, because it's a block away from the train station. For those of you that have commercial real estate where you're trying to get a business, you need people living downtown if you want to have shops and restore your streetscape retail. We lost a diner up in Fleetwood. Now, Fleetwood is a lovely community. It's one of the most beautiful downtown village communities in all of Westchester County. And yet it couldn't support the retro diner. And they closed down a few months ago. Why? Because there aren't enough people that want to go to a diner and spend $15 or $20 a pop. So you need you talked about, there was a term you used, critical mass. You need a critical mass of people downtown with disposable income if you want downtown to come back. The last thing that I would say that the city can do, and this is something I've been advocating for probably 40 years in New York City. The real estate tax environment in New York City is exactly what is preventing development. The city's assessment criteria target 30% of my gross revenue for real estate taxes. It's impossible. Nobody in this world, nobody in this room, and nobody in this world can develop large-scale rental housing if you're targeting 30% of every dollar of rent. That means how many people in this room rent? I mean, anybody in this apartment, just one person rents, 2 people rent, 3 people rent. Okay, so think about it this way. If you're paying $2,000 a month for your apartment and 30% of that, $600 a month is going to the city, that means there's only $1,400 left for the owner to capitalize his investment in the building and to pay the operating costs. So, and I'll tell you right now, the operating costs on a typical apartment these days is anywhere from $700 to $900 a month. All right, that's the going rate for a first-class building. So if the city wants, and what the city is, the workaround that the city, I don't have an IDA. I refuse to apply for an IDA, for a pilot. Why? Because I know that this city is desperate for money. So we paid almost $600,000 to date in filing fees for the permits. We've paid over $200,000 in mortgage recording tax. We paid over $2 million in sales tax on our purchases here in Mount Vernon during construction. So, but what did I get in return for the city? I got a predetermination letter that sets my taxes at a viable level. We're going to pay more than just about any other building. Starting next year, we're going to start paying over $1 million a year for that lot. The point is, if you give a developer a predictable and sustainable pathway forward on his taxes, she will develop. Oh, brother.
Well, it's already 2 o'clock, so we can wrap up.
That's why we invested in bringing in a person who has 30 years of IBA experience and financial, management experience to do cost benefit analysis. And I also believe that should really be, it should be really coming before the IBA should be the first step. Because years ago, I saw so many people who went before all of the land use boards, and then they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in planning and architects and studies and traffic studies and environmental impact studies. And they got to the IDA and the deal, they couldn't make the deal, right? And so coming to the IDA and an IDA that is functioning, that has real boundaries, real guidelines, real clear guidelines is one of the best things that we can do, and have those conversations up front and really be able to determine that path forward. I've seen it go both ways. We don't want people spending a lot of money and then getting to the IDA and the IDA says, well, we can't give you these incentives or those incentives. You really should kind of start off so that the city could understand, along with the developer, the investor, how financially feasible the project is. And we also hear what you say. So we know the infrastructure in the city of Mount Vernon has been bad. We brought in 163 million for the sewers. All of the bridges will be reopened by May of 2025. The construction is already, or the destruction of the bridges have already began on Fulton Avenue as well as South Street. Before the end of the year, we will have the federal secretaries or deputy secretaries or undersecretaries from EPA, right? Because that's infrastructure, from the Department of Transportation, as well as the Small Business Administration here. And so we have we have unprecedented access literally right now to the White House. And those 3 federal agencies will be here before the end of the years. We had Starbucks here last week. They're looking at 2 locations. We're having conversations also with what, Trader Joe's? And Robin is also, Robin, if you could just raise your hand and step out for a second. This is Robin Mack. She is the Director of Business Development for the City of Mount Vernon and works under the IDA. And so we are having these conversations. We don't talk about everything out loud always, because you want to make sure that you're further enough in the conversations before you throw things out there. We're not trying to impress, but we are trying to leave a lasting impact. So that business can be done in Mount Vernon. So also the last thing I want to say is thank Gary Pretlow, our Assemblyman Pretlow, in advance, because he is giving us a significant grant to be able to fully digitize the building department so that everything, so, right? So we've brought on OpenGov, which provides you with an online portal. We brought on OpenGov, which provides you with an online portal to begin your applications, to upload your applications, to make sure all of your paperwork and your documentation is in one place, so no one can say that you didn't hand it in. They don't know what's happening. There's timestamps. You know when it moves from one phase to another. We're bringing in Laserfiche, right? And Laserfiche will allow us to make sure that all plans and everything are scanned and digitized, and that there's a real archive and up-to-date and current and accurate plans for everything in the city. For the infrastructure, the sewers, we have over 1 million linear feet of sewage and stormwater pipes, and I believe we're about 80% down the road and cammering all of those. And so if there are areas that you're interested in developing, we can sit there and go down to our Department of Public Works, and we know where the infrastructure breaks are. We are working in a total new capacity with Con Ed in dealing with the gas lines and the electric lines, and coordinating that work with our water department and Public Works around stormwater and wastewater. We actually just won an award last night. I was supposed to be in Chicago, but had another meeting where we the Mayor Daley Award, the former mayor of Chicago, and this award will give us access to stormwater and all types of water infrastructure engineers. And it will also put us in a special program with the EPA Finance Department to gain greater access to their resources. And so there are a lot of things that are coming together that we will be sharing more and more of. And we don't want to do the pretty things above the ground until we fix the infrastructure of the city. And trust me, these bridges are getting done because of some of the pressure that was pushed upward in the state by Buttigieg's office. So when I go and I travel to these conferences and to these meetings, and I hear that the federal government will reimburse the state 100% for off-system bridges, and then the MTA says, well, you have to pay a certain amount into the bridges. No, we do not. They are 100% reimbursable. Do them now. They're 130 years old. We don't want to hear any more excuses. We're not falling for the okey doke. And that is why you're seeing them being done in record pace. And we're partnering with the state Senate. And that's why our MTA, our Metro Northwest station, is being rebuilt. The MTA was here last night for a public presentation. So these things are documented. These are not things that we're just talking about to make people excited. They're things that are committed and are ready to go in the ground. We just want your partnership, and let's go.
So before we wrap up, we did have one more question. So, and then after that question, we'll wrap up. So be patient.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Hay. I am the president of the Downtown Merchants Association and have had the pleasure of partnering with the LISC Foundation in Westchester County to Once again, my name is Andrea Hay. I'm the president of the Mount Vernon Downtown Merchants Association, and I am a property owner here in Mount Vernon. I've been here for 32 years, and I've been working with the LISC organization as well as the Westchester Community College in order to bring in grants to beautify the 4th Avenue corridor. I'm trying to get all of the merchants to come together as a unified force to make changes. One of the things that I think is important for us is to modify the parking ordinance. We have a big parking lot in the back of my building on 4th Avenue, but we cannot utilize it properly. As a result, many of the businesses that we would attract cannot come in because of the parking ordinance. So I want to keep that in mind to make a change in that ordinance so that we can bring in attractive businesses, restaurants, art galleries, you name it. We have what it takes. All we have to do is envision it and make it happen.
Thank you, Ms. Hay, and thanks to all of you for coming out. Sorry, I make my way up front. So we've heard a lot. We're gonna again synthesize it. We have another public workshop. So these are just the smaller roundtables and community conversations that we're having right now, but we're having larger public workshops, like 2 in each phase. We're meeting the second one, June 29th at the Sinai Free Synagogue at 550 North Columbus. So we did one on the south side of the Boys and Girls Club. We're going to do one on the north side of Sinai Free Synagogue. So please come out. It'll be at 6:30 and 6:30 that evening. We're looking forward to great conversations. We have one map here. We're going to have a bunch of maps and poster boards up for engagement and participation. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get to every question, but thank you for the questions you did ask. And if you have additional questions, please, we're going to be lingering about as we fix up the memorial room as folks walk out. So we'll ask, we'll do our best to answer any questions, or we'll follow up with you afterwards. And, we hope to be having continued conversations with a lot of you over the next year or so, because once phase 1 is done, we're going to phase 2. So it's going to be another 9 to 12 months for the rest of Mount Vernon outside of the 50-ish block area that we're considering downtown. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities to have engagement like this in the future. So thank you to Madam Mayor. Thank you to Councilmember Poteet, staff, and our consultants. And thanks to all of you for coming out today.
Can I add one thing? Can I add a couple of things?
Oh,
It's okay. As you